Hey guys, it's Chris Wong. I'm filming this video as of August 2nd, 2024. I'm just going to be talking about changes I made in my portfolio in the last few days and what I saw today as I was making some purchases. So as a disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a guy interested in building a portfolio. So in my margin account, I actually sold my YBIT holdings and I actually decided to put it into Cony, C-O-N-Y, and get more QDTE. And the reason why I got rid of YBIT was because it had a 50% margin requirement, and I want to make all my investments 30% margin requirement. I know margin requirements can change over time, but as of right now, I want to make sure everything I invest in is 30% margin requirement. I also want to make my QDTE position even bigger because I really do like the weekly dividends. As long as I get weekly dividends that pays down my margin, then I feel more comfortable using margin. So I opened up my brokerage account today and I've never seen my margin count drop this low before. And the last time I experienced a massive drop was in October 2023. So going through each of my accounts and see which one I was down in, I actually was considering getting rid of ULTY, as I didn't really seem to like having that holding myself, and I decided to put into YMAX, YMAG, QDTE, QQQY, and JEPY. So I decided to have my portfolio even more index based. So I want it more based on the NASDAQ or the S&P 500. So even though I sold ULTY at a loss and possibly at the lowest price I've seen since the fund came out, I still collected one dividend in my margin account, and I invested the proceeds in other funds that are underperforming. So sometimes when I sell funds at a loss and decide to use the same proceeds to buy other funds, sometimes I'll make a comparison of what would happen if I bought the new fund at the same time that I bought the original fund. Would I actually feel like I got the same loss? Because there was a time when YMAX was higher, there was a time when QDTE was higher. So what would happen if I bought QDTE, YMAX, YMAG, QQQY, JEPY at the same time I bought ULTY like a month ago? The share prices of all of them were even higher. So whether investing with margin or no margin, it's very hard to predict when the lowest dip is going to happen within a few month time period. So even when the first dip happened in the NASDAQ, some people thought that was a good time to invest because the stock price went down. And then it went down further and then recovered, and then went down further, recovered, and today is the lowest I've seen so far. So is it going to dip even further? Cannot tell. So what I'm doing for myself is continuously invest. If I have extra buying power, then I would slowly use more because I'm using more buying power than my current TFSA portfolio. So today I also got paid from work, and after looking through all my expenses, I decided to actually contribute some money into my Questrade TFSA account, so that way I can increase my buying power. So in my Questrade TFSA, I decided to buy HYLD.U because I want to invest in something that's 30% margin requirement and is one of my favorite funds for long-term holding. So am I fearful of a margin call after seeing my portfolio drop this much? I would admit that I still have some fears. I never experienced a margin call before, but I do take some precautions to protect myself in case it does happen. So when a margin call happens, and it also depends on your brokerage, it could be deposit money in order to settle the margin requirement. It could be selling funds, other stocks at a loss. Either I do it myself or the brokerage does it. And it could either cost me more money or it can cost me minimum money depending on how much margin I use and how much the funds go down by. Majority of my investments are within the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ 100 ETFs. So I don't picture those indexes going to zero, because in order for the index to go to zero, then all the companies within the indexes have to go to zero. And the S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100 have the largest companies. So whether investing with or without margin, the goal is investing for the long term. So since my goal is high yield dividends that pay down the margin, so this is in it for the long term. I don't mean use margin just for a short term when the market is down and just try to get in as much as possible and then sell all the shares when the market goes back up. But the goal, this way of investing, is to pay down the margin with the dividends, and then hopefully in a few years the equity portion of my margin account goes up, and then the margin balance will be closer to zero. So after seeing today's drop, I would consider taking more risk and purchase more shares of QDTE, YMAX, QQQY, and JEPY, and IWMY. I just have to be more careful to make sure my buying power does not get close to zero or into negative balance, because that will put me into a margin call. And the reason why I would consider taking a risk to use more margin is because in the long term, those indexes will go up, and everything I invest in is high yield dividends. I am expecting a couple of dividend payouts this Monday from Defiance and QDTE. Usually QDTE will pay out on the Fridays, but on Questrade, they usually pay one business day after the announced date. I hope you guys liked the video. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. Otherwise, please subscribe to my channel for future videos. Thank you guys for watching.